Whether you are purchasing your first home or looking for something unique, Michigan has a variety of different types of houses. In this video, we want to explore the different home types here in Michigan so you can understand which one might be for you. Hello, welcome. In this video, we want to explore Michigan's diversity in architecture and design builds of homes here in Michigan. My name is Matt Talbot. This is the Living in Detroit channel. And like I said, in this video, we talk all things real estate, Southeast Michigan, specifically people that want to move here or live here, and they want to know more information on the state itself. So in this video, we're talking architecture, we're talking real estate, we're talking single family homes, residential type properties, and the different popular types that we see throughout Michigan. Now, please, for those of you that are architecture majors and you know the crazy amounts of history and all that stuff, this is not the video for you to scrutinize. I mean, feel free. You can comment below. You can scrutinize me as much as you like. The point of this video is to give people a general understanding. We're going to have some pop-ups throughout the video. We're gonna have some pop-ups that show you the different types of homes. So as you're thinking about moving here to Michigan, you understand the different architectural types, at least the major ones that we see all the time. I'm not a historian. I'm not an architect major or a history major. So this is stuff I've picked up through the years and some general understanding of the real estate market. So I want to hedge there because I always get like these crazy comments. Well, that's not this and this is not that and this is from out of state. We're trying to do our best here to coach and educate based on our knowledge of the marketplace and our knowledge of real estate. So we're going to dive into the architecture. I think this should be a fun one for a lot of people, specifically if you're looking to move from out of state so you can understand the different home types, some of the pros and cons from this real estate broker's perspective. Coming in at number one on our list of types of homes in Michigan, this one is one of the most popular homes throughout Southeast Michigan, definitely, and throughout the state, and that's going to be ranch homes. So ranch homes, one way to think about a ranch property, it's going to be one story. So how we define ranch homes here in Michigan is going to be one story. They can have a basement, but everything's on the first floor. So we call that a ranch home. Now, ranch homes can be a variety of different types. You could have a modular ranch home. You could have a mid-century 1950s standard brick ranch, which you see a ton of, which I'll talk about in a minute, or you could have a sprawling ranch at 4,000 or 5,000 square feet, which is one of the biggest, baddest houses that you can build. And we have all those throughout Michigan. Now, like I said, when it comes to ranch homes, it's specifically about everything being on one floor. Sometimes you have what's called one-story up ranch homes as well. And those one-story up ranch homes are typically going to be condos. Sometimes you see them as single family. It would be like a garage or something on the first floor, and then the ranch will be up. So it's still one floor. We call those one story up a lot of times, or in a condo where it is a ranch, but it's one story. You got to walk upstairs to get there. And that way we define that on the MLS so we know if there's stairs involved. Okay. We sell a ton of ranch homes. Ranch homes are awesome. One of the reasons why they're one of the biggest products, that we see here in Southeast Michigan is because it fits so many different buyers. You have your 1950s, 1,000 square feet, 1,200 square feet ish ranch homes all throughout like Livonia, the Woodward Corridor, all throughout Southeast Michigan here. And they're building them in droves throughout the 1950s and 60s specifically for a lot of years there. And so there's a lot of ranch homes that fit the build for a lot of people. They're great for starter homes, they're great for small families, and they're awesome for retiree type people that don't want any more steps. So a lot of people that we work with, we help sell their property, they have a big house and they want to downsize, and a lot of times they're looking at ranch homes for that particular product. So there's tons of pros when it comes to ranch homes. I would say the only con is some people don't like the redundancy in certain neighborhoods. So sometimes you get that, monopoly type feeling neighborhood where there's just rows and rows and rows of ranch houses. And so a lot of those homes are sitting in those types of neighborhoods. Now, the flip side of that, a lot of those 1950s, 1960s neighborhoods are pretty developed. So although the homes kind of look similar and there might be a lot of rows of them, so there's a lot of big trees, a lot of the growth has kind of happened through the years. So your bushes are big, there's big trees. So it gives the neighborhood a little bit more uniqueness. Also, back in the day, they didn't build homes as close together as maybe they build today in a lot of cases, and so you do get a little bit more spread out houses. But like I said, a ranch home can be 800 square feet, 700 square feet, all the way up to 5,000, 6,000 square feet here in Michigan. A sprawling ranch, just so you know, is one of the most expensive homes to build, which we'll talk about in a minute when we talk about new construction, and that's because of the footprint, the size of land, and a lot of stuff like that as well too. So ranch homes, great starter homes, great for a lot of different families as well as retirees series. It's an awesome product, and that's why it's number 1 on our list. Number 2 on our list for types of architecture here in Michigan, that's going to be colonial homes. So I was thinking about statistically in my head, like I would say definitely the two products you're going to see the most here in Michigan is going to be a ranch product or a colonial product. Now there's some different subcategories from there that we could dive into, but a colonial really means this. It means that the bedrooms are upstairs. So a lot of homes here in Michigan and throughout the country are colonial homes, right? You walk in, some different versions of living spaces, sometimes offices. You have your kitchen, your main living space, sometimes a great room, sometimes an additional office, a bathroom or two, and then the bedrooms are typically upstairs in a colonial. So, I mean, they always are upstairs in colonial. So the bedrooms are upstairs. So ranch, everything's on the first floor. A colonial is up. So if you think about it, your square footage kind of doubles with the same width of a footprint of a house, right? So if you have a ranch, you stacked another ranch on top, you will go from 1,000 square feet to 2,000 square feet. And in this case, you'd have your colonial with the bedrooms upstairs. A couple of our notes: they're known for formal, classic style and spacious interiors, which is definitely true. Great for families looking for space, especially with large front yards. So the difference between a ranch and a colonial is, again, you can have more square footage with less land, right? Because you're not building wide and out, you're building up, which is an awesome feature to have. Some colonials here in Michigan actually have 3 stories. Not all, but some actually have 3 stories. So what's fun about a colonial house is, let's just say you're 1,500 square feet in the first floor. Well, the second floor is going to be about 1,500 square feet typically. So you're at 3,000 square feet both up and down. And then here in Michigan, unlike other places in the country, you're typically also going to have a basement. Not always, but the majority of the time you're also going to have a basement. So then you have another 1,000 to 1,500 square feet in the basement as well too. So your 1,500 square foot house, once you build up and down, all of a sudden you're at 4,500 total square footage that could be usable depending on if the basement's finished and what you do upstairs and downstairs. Okay, so colonial, everything's on the first floor with the bedrooms upstairs. Occasionally you might have an additional bedroom or 2 on the first floor if it's a big enough colonial, but the primary suite, the majority of the secondary bedrooms will be on the second floor with your colonial. Sound good? So this is where things get a little bit tricky and muddy, and I think some people might scrutinize me on it, but it's okay. So one other home that we have here in Michigan we refer to as Cape Cod. That's number 3 on our list. And a Cape Cod in different areas I think might get different definitions, but for the most part, from my experience and what we refer to it, whether it's slang or not, I'm not sure. We call a Cape Cod as a first floor primary suite here in Michigan, and there'll be additional bedrooms upstairs, okay? So similar to a colonial, it's 2 stories, but instead of having the primary suite, it used to be called the master suite, the primary suite now is going to be on the first floor. So you're going to walk into the house, and somewhere on that first floor when you walk in the front door will be your primary owner suite bedroom, okay? And then from there throughout the house, you have your kitchen, you have your bathrooms, all that type of stuff, and then typically upstairs will be a loft or bedrooms upstairs. So a lot of times, like what I imagine when I think of a standard Cape Cod is you're going to have an office, you're going to have a first floor primary, you're going to have a kitchen, you're going to have a first floor bathroom for guests and stuff like that, as well as your primary bathroom. And then you're going to go upstairs, and that might be 2-3 bedrooms upstairs, a couple bathrooms, maybe a loft and additional space as well too. That's going to be your Cape Cod style house. If you look at the internet, Cape Cods also, they refer to it as like steep gable roofs, dormer windows, and often built with cedar shingles, which can be true. And you maybe see a lot of those like on lakefront and some cool looking, exterior, what we call elevations here in Michigan. But for me, a Cape Cod, at least how we define it, or at least how most people would define it here in Michigan, it's going to be that first floor primary suite. Sometimes people switch it up. They call it a traditional. There's some overlaps here in different ways, but for me, in my head, and how most agents and brokers here in Michigan define it, it's going to be that first floor primary suite with additional bedrooms upstairs. There's, of course, nuances to this rule, but that's your Cape Cod house. I love Cape Cods. I think they're an awesome product for a lot of different reasons. Not to discriminate or stereotype or anything, but typically I think Cape Cods are awesome for families. They're definitely awesome for retirees because you could have, let's say you have everything on your first floor. So your bathroom, your primary bathroom, your primary bedroom, your living space, everything's on the first floor. Then if you have guests, they can go upstairs in the upstairs bedrooms. I think it's also awesome for older families. So if you have kids, but they're on the older end of things, they can be upstairs, get their own space, and you can be downstairs to kind of separate that. Some younger families, I think it makes sense for 2. Sometimes in my own head, I'm just thinking like, okay, if I have a baby, do I want to walk up and down the stairs to the baby's room all the time? That can be a little bit of a challenge for some people. Just something to consider if you're considering a Cape Cod house. But I think Cape Cods are awesome. They're a great build footprint. A lot of times they're a bigger home. They're a little bit more expensive more often than not because you need a wider footprint. It's kind of like a ranch because you have the primary on the first floor. You're going to need a very wide footprint with additional square footage upstairs. So usually they're pretty decent sized homes. Before I get into the next one on the list, one thing I wanted to mention about Cape Cods is you have sort of like a sister build type, what I consider, to a Cape Cod here in Michigan. And you're going to see a lot of these in the Woodward Corridor, a lot of 1940s neighborhoods, some 1950s neighborhoods, and that's going to be your bungalow, okay? So we don't have that on our list. I wanted to add that. I'm like circling back to that part. So Cape Cod, typically you're going to have first floor, primary suite, bedrooms upstairs. Your bungalow, for the most part, usually has the primary upstairs, but additional bedrooms on the first floor. So a lot of bungalows that you see in Royal Oak or you see in Ferndale or the Woodward Corridor or really throughout Southeast Michigan, you'll have maybe one or two smaller bedrooms on the first floor and then one primary upstairs or sometimes even 2 rooms upstairs. But typically the primary is going to be up with second additional bedrooms on the first floor as well too. So those homes, typically those bungalows are a little bit tighter. A lot of the bungalows that have been finished over the last few years, they actually converted unused square footage into finished square footage. So a lot of times they finish attics and different spaces up top that typically weren't finished before to give additional square footage in these popular areas. As an example, you might walk into a bungalow and the bedroom's a decent size and you walk into the bathroom and maybe the shower has like a weird angle on it, okay? A lot of times that's because they retrofitted that bathroom based on new standards, or they actually finished additional square footage in the attic or different places to add on to the total square footage of the house. So bungalows and Cape Cods, kind of like brother and sister in my own head in a lot of areas. But for me, most of the time, your Cape Cods are going to be bigger, newer construction, bigger square footage houses compared to the bungalows, which kind of squeeze bedrooms in different places throughout the house, if that makes sense. Coming at number 5 on our list, this has been a very popular product for a lot of years, but there's also, there's old versions and new versions of this house, and that's going to be a Craftsman house, okay? So focus on handcraft details, overhanging eaves and large front porches, popular in suburban and residential neighborhoods like Royal Oak, Ferndale, and Kalamazoo, often built with natural materials like wood and stone, perfect for those who value additional attention to detail, right? So Craftsman is a popular house. There's a lot of Craftsman houses built years ago, but also it's a newer construction type product where people are having that Craftsman look as we talk to it. So that's an elevation type look. And a Craftsman home typically is going to be a Colonial or Cape Cod. You could have maybe a ranch Craftsman, I guess, theoretically, but for the most part, you're going to have typically a Colonial or Cape Cod type Craftsman house, in my opinion, or potentially bungalow, I guess, too. But it's more of like the look of the house from my perspective when you talk about a Craftsman type build rather than the actual beds, baths, layouts, if that makes sense. Coming in number 6 on my list, one of the coolest things in Michigan is our history, okay? And so due to our history, there's a lot of different types of build types. And so for this particular build type, we're going to talk about Victorian homes. So known for intricate details, bright colors, and ornamental trims, common in historic neighborhood cities like Detroit, Grand Rapids, and Saginaw. There's a lot of other, Ann Arbor. I mean, Victorians are all over the place. Often more traditional, elegant style with a lot of character. Great for buyers seeking unique and historic homes. So these are going to be old Victorian homes. What do I mean by old? Typically, Victorian homes were built way back in the early to mid 1800s through the very early 1900s. Okay, so Victorian homes are old homes. Where you're going to see a lot of these are these old town, small town places or cities, big cities like Detroit that have been around for a very, very long time. So Victoria homes, there's some different, beautiful streets in Detroit that they kept the historical architecture. They've kept the historical vibe of the house. Okay, and usually when you talk about historic neighborhoods and Victorian neighborhoods or houses, a lot of times there's actually protection. So many times if there's a group of houses that are all this Victorian style or these really old type style houses, they actually have HOA and compliances to keep the historical integrity of the house. More often than not, most of those rules have to do with the exterior of the house. So you can't just put any color window. You can't get rid of certain trim. You can't do any color roof. There's a lot more scrutiny in these neighborhoods to keep the historical integrity of these houses. I think it's awesome. A lot of times if you're buying a Victorian house, if you're a first time buyer and you don't know much about houses and you don't have a lot of money in your bank account, I probably wouldn't start with a Victorian or a really old house. There's a lot of maintenance of these houses. They're basically a museum, a piece of art that you need to consistently take care of. We've sold a handful of them through the years. I think they're an awesome product, but they are truly a piece of art. A lot of them date back to the 1800s, early 1900s, and they just have a lot of attention to detail, and there's a lot of expensive woodwork and just different things in the house that you want to keep the historical integrity of, and you want to make sure to maintain, which takes some money and takes some work along the way. So make sure you're prepared to do so if you're buying a Victorian. Coming in at number 7 on our list, we're going to go back to more the layout and structural integrity of houses rather than the age or look of the house. And that's going to be what we call a split level house. So this is one of the, I think, most argued upon or confused or difference of opinion thing that we have in Michigan. So split level houses typically feature multiple levels of living space, a main floor, a lower level, often a basement, and a top floor. They are popular in suburban areas, especially mid-century neighborhoods. A lot of these were built in the mid-century, and which actually is a good add-on I want to remember before I'm done with this section. And a functional layout with distinct areas for living, sleeping, and recreation, ideal for families needing separate spaces for different activities. So split levels. So sometimes you have what's called a bi-level, a tri-level, or a quad level. And then additional to, and this is where people get confused, some of those have additional kickers with a basement or not. So depending on the amount of different floors and levels is going to be your split level. So a standard tri-level, as an example, is something we see a lot. They were built in the mid-century for the most part. You're going to walk into the house typically on one floor, and then usually there's like it's kind of like a level here, then maybe a level above that, right? And so instead of having a Colonial, we're gonna have like a big set of stairs, and there's kind of 2 levels. We're gonna go up to the second stair. Hopefully this is making sense. You might have one where it's just like a small group of steps, but it's kind of just slightly set over from the first level. So you go up a couple steps and there's gonna be a level. And the same thing, you go down the same set of stairs, but it's only a couple steps instead of like a big group of steps. And then underneath that first level, you might have your tri. So you kind of have one side of the house, which maybe is only 1 story, and the other side is 2 story, and they kind of lay it out in this sequence, right? I'm thinking of like, what's that game? Where you like stack it, Jenga. It's kind of like a Jenga thing where you stack it, right? And that would be your tri-level. A quad would actually have just 4 floors. So you'd have 1 up, usually 1 down, and then sometimes another level down. And the quad could even have a basement. So a lot of times these mid-century homes were built, on hills and different neighborhoods, a little bit more spread out back in the day. So sometimes you see some really unique mid-century houses that are going to be what we call split levels. So you can have 2 levels, which is a bi-level. You can have 3 levels, which is a tri-level. You can have 4 levels, which is a quad level. And you can additionally have a basement kicker. Okay, 3 more on our list, and for sake of keeping this video short, I'm going to kind of hover over a couple of them because I know I'm probably getting a little bit long-winded for this video, but up next is modern houses. The reason why I kind of want to hover over this one is we do have moderns like you see in California and different places. We'll have some pop up here. They're less prevalent here in Michigan. You're seeing more in some new construction in some different areas and specific pockets of town, but they are a little bit more rare. So if you're looking for that more modern build, it's going to be a tough find. You could build a modern, especially if you're looking for higher end custom construction, but there's not a lot of modern homes around. There are some, but there's not a lot. So I want to skim over that. Log cabins, I cannot finish this video without at least hovering over log cabins. Again, way less popular, at least in your big buckets of areas like Southeast Michigan, Grand Rapids, Traverse City. Your bigger cities are not going to have a lot of log cabin homes, okay? Log cabin homes are typically, I mean, people know what a log cabin home is. I don't have to explain it to you, but typically you're going to see that on a lakefront house. You're going to see that up north, a hunter's cabin. You'll see a lot of those throughout the state. They definitely are prevalent throughout the state, but not in the more dense areas as far as population. So log cabins are definitely here in Michigan and can be really, really cool for lake houses or for hunting cabins as well. And then last but not least, so we've had multiple videos on new construction. So I could talk about this for the next 2 hours. I won't, but last but not least, it's going to be new construction. So modern homes built with the latest materials and technology, often in newly developed subdivisions, found in fast growing suburban areas such as Novi, Canton, Clarkston, offers energy efficient designs, contemporary finishes, and open concept layouts, perfect for buyers who want to move in ready, low maintenance house, and a lot of times for the more modern family. So we do tons of new construction. I calculated the other day, I think we sold over $50 million in new construction over the last few years. So we work very, very heavily with all the local builders, the big national builders, and we have a plethora of different options if you're thinking new construction. It's one of our biggest things that we help clients with, and a lot of people come from this channel. They're moving from out of town. They have a decent timeline, a decent runway usually when they're moving from out of town. Not always, sometimes they're in a time crunch, and they can plan to do a new construction house. That can take anywhere from a couple months to a couple years depending on the product, but we do a lot of new construction homes. The thing with new construction is you're gonna have a variety of products. You're gonna have big national builders, you're gonna have what we call production builders that are building a high volume of houses, and then you're gonna have custom builders. You're gonna have luxury custom builders. There's a variety of products, and that's all depending on area, location, school district, and definitely budget when it comes to construction. We have tons of videos on construction construction on this channel if you want to deep dive, so go ahead and do so. But we want to give you a rundown of just the architectural types when it comes to the different home types here in Michigan. So lots of new construction options. I'm happy to run through it with you at any time, depending on your unique needs of what you're looking for in building a home here in Michigan. A million different directions you can go here in Michigan when it comes to new construction. So hopefully this gave you a good insight of the different home types. Hopefully the pictures and different stuff we had pop out throughout this video really helped define and show you the different types of homes in Michigan and the variety of product, and maybe you have a little bit better judgment of what you're looking for when you're looking to purchase here in Michigan. My name is Matt Talbot. My brokerage is Redefined Real Estate. Thank you so much for checking out today's video. We always appreciate a like and subscribe as well too if this provided any value to you, or if you just want to continue to make fun of me. Either way, just like and subscribe helps us, helps it tell YouTube that we're doing a good job here. So thanks so much. You have an awesome day.